WVUA-FM, Tuscaloosa.
Hello, everybody. This is WVUA 90.7 FM, the Capstone, and welcome to episode number 29 of the Full Court Press podcast. My name is Jamie Martinez, and I'm joined by Alex Chasen and Nick Atkinson. On today's episode, look forward to league news and part 1 of 2 of our current NBA power rankings.
Ooh.
Today, we'll be going over our rankings from numbers 30 to 16. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at FCP_podcast. Wait, FCP podcast _UA, my bad. And TikTok is FCP_podcast. That's on me. With that being said, let's get into it.
Let's get right into it. So we had a few weeks off. Well, we had 1 week off, but a few weeks off from the podcast. Spring break was in the middle of that, everyone. Mm-hmm. Nick, how was your spring break? What did you do? What do you do, man?
I didn't really do nothing. I just kind of sat around the house, and then I saw my great-grandma a little bit. That was about it, really.
See, it baffles me that you have a great-grandmother, because my grandmother's going to be 85 in October. So if I had a great-grandmother, she'd be like 110.
She just turned 88.
If you don't mind me, she just turned 88, right? So she's 3 years older than my grandmother to me. So that's
wild.
Baffles me, young families like that. How old's your grandmother?
62,
That's
I think.
crazy. Both my parents are going to be 59 coming up this summer. So, and then Jamie over here also has young parents too.
I have a great-grandmother, too.
That's crazy.
I think she's... I don't know how old Grandma Julia is, but she's like either late 80s or in her 90s.
Your great-grandmother?
Yeah. She's pushing strong. She makes good homemade tortillas. I miss them.
Those Italian and Mexican people, they live a long time.
Yeah. We got it going.
It just baffles me that both you have great-grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think back to home. There's really no one that really has... one of my friends... Maybe, but yeah, that's not very common from where I'm from. I guess it's a Southern and Cali thing.
I guess.
No, it happens everywhere. I just don't really know anyone in my life. But Jamie, how was your spring break?
My spring break was pretty chill. It was a great time hanging out with family. I mean, the week itself, I probably just stayed home the entire time and hung out with friends for a couple days. But the last weekend, I ended up going to LA. Had a great time up there with my brother's quarterback camp. Went shopping with the family. We drove through the hood. That was fun. Inglewood and Crenshaw. But other than that, I had a great time. Just family and friends. Couldn't have asked for a better break.
How'd your brother do in the camp?
He was pretty dookie in the first half, but he really picked it up in the second half when he kind of changed up his mechanics and he started throwing dots. So it was good to see.
And he was throwing to like people older than him, assuming, right? Because you said something like...
No, because it was only quarterbacks there. So there was one 7th grade quarterback, and then he went up to seniors.
So who was he
in high
throwing
school.
to?
They were throwing to each other,
Okay.
but they were doing like different routes.
Gotcha.
Like they were running them themselves. So, I mean, they both did. Everybody there did really good, and it was cool to see Young Money Jacob really pick himself up.
Future right there.
Yeah, future Alabama
He'll be coming
quarterback.
on the podcast when he's in the NFL. so look forward to that one in about how many years from that?
I don't know. He's a freshman right now, so I guess it'd be like 5-6 years.
Probably more because you got to
7,
do probably 8
8.
because you got to do like a lot of college years for football.
I don't
So
know.
in about 8 years, we'll come back on the pod. You know, when we're out in our careers, and we'll have Jacob Martinez on the podcast. Jumping into my spring break, though, I didn't go home, which I'm so happy about because we got tons of snow up in Boston. I actually went down to, well, first I went over to Atlanta with my dad, saw the Hawks versus Celtics. That was fun. And then I went down to Disney World in Florida with my cousins and my dad, and that was a great time. I'm wearing the shirt right now. I conquered Expedition Everest. That was kind of like the ride. This was like my 5th or 6th time in Disney. Since I was young, I was always scared to do Mount Everest, the ride. But I did it with my 11-year-old little cousin. Shout out Sydney. I couldn't be like a baby with my little cousin, so I had to do it. I manned up. I did it. I will say Gardens of the Galaxy, it's a new ride within the past year. Craziest ride I've ever been on. Way scarier than Expedition Everest. And that's coming from me because I was terrified of Expedition Everest. Gardens of the Galaxy, craziest thing. So if you ever go down to Orlando, Disney World, you got to check out Gardens of the Galaxy ride. Best ride ever. It's on a brand new like track. Craziest thing I've ever done.
To clarify real quick, Expedition Everest, for all you Cali people, is just Matterhorn in Disneyland.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday at lunch.
Yeah.
They basically have the same thing at both parks, just different names.
Yeah.
But now, what y'all been waiting for, the NBA, that's why you're here. Let's jump right into it with starting off with some key dates. The playoffs are around the corner, so I'm going to give you guys some key dates to look out for. We're almost at the end of March. April's playoff time. So April 9th, the NBA regular season concludes. It's over. The 22-2023 NBA regular season ends April 9th. April 10th, the rosters are set for playoff teams by 3 p.m. Eastern. So until then, you can make some signs, sign some people, release some people. But until then, you can do that stuff. But April 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern, it's over. Your teams are locked for the playoffs. April 11th to April 14th, debatably the playoffs. Some people say it's not the playoffs. Some people say it's the play-in out of the playoffs. Well, it's called the play-in. I think it's still part of the playoffs. Debatable. Anyways, from April 11th to April 14th, the NBA play-in tournament. And then April 15th, the real stuff starts. The NBA playoffs begin. We're coming right up to this. We mapped it out yesterday at dinner. We have around 12 podcasts left. We're going to make them all count before we go on our summer break. We're going to try to do some podcasts over summer break, but that's a different story for a different day. But sticking with today, those are some key dates to look out for. I will remind you probably once a week. I won't do it on each podcast, but each week until we get there, I will remind you guys. Now real NBA news. Starting off with some sad news, actually. NBA Hall of Famer Willis Reed passed away at the age of 80 years old. Knicks legend, two-time NBA champion, two-time Finals MVP and 1970 MVP award winner. Also 75th anniversary team. Nick, you were talking about this yesterday. How do you feel about this passing?
I mean, he's obviously a legend. The only championship that the Knicks ever have is because of him, and he's also one of the first MVPs. Still I said probably top 15 center of all time.
You did, yeah.
And I just think that he'll definitely be missed. He's one of those old guys that one of the first old NBA players that got injured, came back, and then did greater stuff when he did come back. He tore his MCL, I think, the year before they won their first title, and then they named the tunnel the Willis Reed Tunnel because he walked through it and all that. So he's definitely a Knicks legend.
Yeah, so Willis Reed is obviously known for the 1970 Finals, Game 7. Lakers-Knicks tied 3-3. Willis Reed tears a muscle in his right thigh, and he comes back through the tunnel after being hurt. He comes back, plays out the rest of the game, and the Knicks storm back and win the NBA Finals, all because of him, boosting his teammates, morale and all that. So Willis Reed is an obvious legend in not just the Knicks history, but in NBA history. And this is a very sad passing for everybody.
Definitely. Now jumping back into something we talked about on the last podcast, the Ja Morant saga. Is it coming to an end? Maybe. There might be more, but it looks like it's turning the corner and we're coming down the mountain. But let's just get into some key details, that have been missed since we were on break. The NBA suspended guard Ja Morant for 8 games. That suspension is now up, and he is eligible to come back tonight. He was actually eligible to come back a few games ago, but they wanted to ramp him up in practice. Tonight, I believe it's March 22nd. Yes, he is eligible to return. Do you think he will? I mean, head coach Taylor Jenkins on Ja Morant, we anticipate him playing tomorrow. That was yesterday, March 21st. Today is March 22nd. He is eligible to return. What do you guys think about this?
I think it's a definite possibility, but, nothing's ever guaranteed in the NBA. So I think after taking a few games off, despite being able to come back, I think now it could be time for him to come back and kind of rejuvenate that Grizzlies team who just took the 2nd seed in the West. So they probably want to run away with that, and so I don't see a reason why not to bring him back.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better. I think that that's probably going to be their main point, is getting him back acclimated and ready for the playoffs so that they can, go on a long run. Being the 2nd seed, probably playing OKC or
whoever that, yeah.
Probably OKC is what I would think, but
the Knicks would probably win.
Yeah.
And in his absence, Morant entered counseling programs in Florida shortly after announcing that he would step away from the team. He did mention this, because I forget if I mentioned this a few weeks ago when we were talking about the Ja Morant saga, but he did. He was very adamant about this. He does not have an alcohol problem. In his interview at practice yesterday, he was extremely adamant about it. He made a point to bring that up and push it really hard. He did not leave an app. He did not go to Alcohol Anonymous. He did not get any help with an alcohol issue. He went away for counseling to deal with stress issues and to deal better with the stress and anxiety that whatever he's dealing with in his personal life. That was the main reason of his focus on leaving. It was not alcohol based. So I want to clarify that. I forget if we mentioned that on the previous podcast as a possible reason for his absence. That was not the reason per himself. So take that with what you wish. Jaylen Brown, hate to bring it up, but here we go. In a New York Times interview, Jaylen Brown, and I quote, it was about a lot of things, talking about his personal life, his relationship with Kyrie Irving, Kanye West, other big names in the world. But the main point of what we're talking about today is, and I quote, he said a lot of quotes, but this is the main one here. I don't know, talking about his long-term situation in Boston. I don't know. As long as I'm needed, it's not up to me. We'll see how they feel about me over time, and I feel about them over time. Now, that kind of might be a little bit okay. This is not the first time Jaylen Brown has expressed disinterest in Boston, and especially later on in the article, he expresses his disinterest with the Celtics fan base. Also not the first time he's displayed that frustration with them, saying they're quick to jump on him. They booed him when we drafted him in 2016. Obviously, we shouldn't have booed him. I know I didn't boo him. And I paraphrase this, but he said this last night in his post-game interview after this whole controversy came up earlier in the week. And I paraphrase, the media mix your words. I'm focused on the Celtics improving and winning a title. Basically what he said last night in his post-game interview, which sure, the media can mix your words. But when it's a quote out of your own mouth, you can't mix that up. Because he said, I don't know. As long as I'm needed. He also said, the Celtics fan base, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing here, but the Celtics fan base, there are sides of it that are extremely toxic and harsh. Not everyone is, but there are sides of that. This came out of his own mouth. Jamie, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so I was talking with Alex about this the other day, and I'm just saying he sounds like he does not want to be there. Like Alex said earlier, there's just so many reasons for him to not want to be there. The fan base has just not been appreciative of him.
The thing is, though, he knows, he said this, it's not the whole fan base. I think it might be more like an underlying reason of he doesn't want to be Robin to Jason Tatum's
Exactly,
Batman.
that's what I was saying
think that's
earlier.
where it's heading.
I think he wants to be the star of his own team.
Which he can be on
he absolutely
20
can be.
teams.
I think he's honestly better than Jason Tatum, but it's just not shown. I think if you put him on a team like Brooklyn, where he could be the star of that team with a lot of young pieces around him, they would be fantastic. Or maybe Chicago or somewhere else. I do think he could be a star. And yes, he does have a couple years left on his contract.
He has one more year.
One
and then
year.
There's a key piece to this. If he makes an All-NBA team this year, he's eligible for a Supermax this summer. There's not been one player to deny a Supermax offer because it can only come from the team you're currently on.
Yeah.
So he'll accept that. And then you may say, oh, I was talking to one of my friends back home over Instagram earlier. He's like, oh, if he gets that Supermax or if he signs a long-term extension, he's locked up. He's not going anywhere. The NBA, the players run their own destiny. Yeah. Football, basketball, hockey, you're on a contract, you're locked up. It's harder to escape. Kyrie Irving just escaped. Kevin Durant just escaped. Paul George escaped. Russell Westbrook escaped when he wanted out of OKC and kind of start fresh a few years ago. The NBA players control their own destiny. If Jaylen Brown wants, he can request a trade this summer and he'll be out.
Mm-hmm.
The NBA players control what they want to do. So to say if he's locked up for, let's say, Supermax 5-year deal worth whatever amount of money, it doesn't matter.
He can go.
He can go whenever he wants. That's the only thing where it's like, cool, but he can request a trade. Yeah. Nick, what's your take on this whole situation?
Yeah, I agree. I think that he wants out. I think that he knows that he could be, best player on one of the best teams in the NBA, and that he has that level of talent. I just think he wants something built around him. So I think that's I think at the end of the day, that's what is going to happen.
What if we win a championship this year?
Then, that's not going to happen. But, I mean,
I think if we don't win a championship over this year or his final contract year next year,
he's gone. Yeah.
He's gone.
I was going to say, it's not impossible for somebody to leave after winning a championship. We saw what happened with Kawhi Leonard. He was the star of that Toronto team.
Right, but it's a little bit different. He wasn't drafted by the Raptors. The Raptors knew it was a one-year rental because he wanted to be in LA his last year in San Antonio, but it didn't work out. Obviously, he got traded to the Raptors. So everybody knew that was a one-year rental.
I mean, maybe Jaylen Brown doesn't want to be in Boston either. So, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think he has a lot of Kyrie Irving in him. That he just has a lot of signs of that.
Kyrie Irving guaranteed he'd stay in Boston, and then he left.
Well, this is 7 years into Jaylen Brown's career. It was around 7 or 8 years into Kyrie Irving's career where he decided to become interesting and make a lot of weird decisions and just leave after false promises. So Jaylen Brown, he's in that time of his career where he might turn into Kyrie Irving.
He's always with Kanye West too.
He is. So we'll see what happens on that standpoint. We'll keep you guys updated. Obviously, nothing's going to happen now or in the playoffs. That's going to be more of an off-season topic and obviously next season topic. So we'll bring it up whenever anything happens. But let's jump into some more news. Bogdanovich agrees on a 4-year, $68 million contract extension with the Hawks. Nothing major, but this locks up a key bench player / sometimes starter for a Hawks team that is looking to turn things around, not this year, but next year, run for a championship. I thought it would be this year. Obviously, that hasn't really worked out, but I think if you have Quinn Snyder for the rest of this year, jumping into next year, he proved with the Jazz he can push a successful team, not a championship team, but maybe he can do in Atlanta. Do you guys have any takes on this? Or obviously the Hawks in general? Because obviously this signing's not huge. It helps, but how about the Hawks in general?
Not really. I mean, I think that they're just probably the biggest pretenders in the NBA. I mean, they're just consistently in the play-in, and I don't know. I just think that what they're trying to build isn't going to necessarily work. I don't know. I think you got to get John Collins out of there.
I mean, it's cool to see a former King get his money. So I was kind of sad when he left. But it's cool that he's balling out in Atlanta. He got a bag.
Lakers, are they looking to add another big man? They recently worked out Tristan Thompson and Tony Bradley. Nothing has come of it yet, but Tristan Thompson was obviously on that championship team with LeBron back in Cleveland. He is also on TV, so that'd be kind of funny to see him go from NBA Today back onto the court. With that said, not major news. I just thought it was interesting to add, especially on the Tristan Thompson side of things where he did play with LeBron. So if anything's going to happen, it'd probably be Tristan Thompson. And then Celtics assistant coach Damon Stoudemire is joining Georgia Tech to become their new head coach per Woj. This is very interesting because when I was at the Celtics game, Damon Stoudemire was there. 2 days later, he's gone. He's now the head coach of Georgia Tech. So it just shows how quick things can happen in the NBA, college basketball. I think this is a pretty big loss for the Celtics because when Joe Mazzulla was out a few months ago with like an eye issue going on, Damon Stoudemire came in as head coach, and we won both those games. And honestly, he kind of had more control of that team than Joe Mazzulla did. Not saying he's a better coach, but he definitely is well warranted this head coaching job in college and possibly in a few years move to a head coaching job in the NBA. Then Paul George, I know Nick wants to talk about this one. He is out 2 to 3 weeks with a sprained right knee. He'll be reevaluated, like I just said, in 2 or 3 weeks. So it could be longer than that because that's when he'll be reevaluated. Nick, I know you have a lot to say on this topic. Let's jump into it. What do you got to say about the Clippers in general and Paul George?
Well, just to start off on Paul George, I mean, what I've seen from the most part, yeah, it says reevaluated 2 to 3 weeks, but the prediction is at the beginning of the first round, first 2 games, he'll be back.
That's 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, so he'll be back by then, and the Clippers have one of the easiest schedules remaining. I think this is a positive thing, so Russell Westbrook can build chemistry with the rest of the team, and they've looked really good. They're 6-6 with him. The first 5 games they lost, and since then their chemistry has been some of the best in the NBA. And I think that he's really adjusted well. He's kind of looking like his wizard self a little bit. I think that for the remainder of the season, he could average like 15 and 10. And I like what Ty Lue has been able to do as far as implementing him to crash the offensive boards, kick out Paul George, Terrence Mann, Eric Gordon, who has been playing shooting lights out this season. Marcus Morris, I still kind of hate him a little bit. Nick Batum, he's a great shooter. Roko's been playing really good. Plumlee has been playing very good.
And you said you didn't like him, and you put him as the worst center in the NBA.
Yeah, but I mean, now that they've gotten some time under their belt, some chemistry with each other, they look like one of those dangerous teams in the NBA. And if Paul George comes back looking like how he did prior to this injury, I mean, they're still my pick to win the West, as Kendrick Perkins said.
How about you, Jamie? How do you feel about the Paul George injury, and how does this affect the Clippers team? Obviously, like Nick said, looking to win a championship.
So, yeah, it sucks to see a Fresno State boy get hurt. I love Paul George. He's one of my favorite players. And to see this happen in such a late stretch in the season, it just sucks. Because what seed are they right now? The 5?
Game out of 4.
Yeah, being a game out of the 4 seed in a very winnable game against the Thunder. It just sucks to see. And, you just got to hope and pray that this doesn't extend into playoff time. You just got to hope everything goes right in the situation. And seeing it happen so late in the season is just something you never want to see. And he's really been remarkable in the playoffs over the last couple of years. So, yeah, you have Kawhi Leonard, you have Russell Westbrook, but that Clippers team is not going to be the same without PG-13.
I think they have the best depth in basketball. So, I mean, me personally, like I said, I take it positively. I think it's just going to continue to build their chemistry and make all the players step up in their roles, and they're just going to play better, I think. I look at it as a positive situation.
Lonzo Ball, sad news out of Chicago. He is undergoing cartilage transplant in his left knee, team says. And what is not put here, but I was doing some research on it. Lonzo Ball, if he comes back, will be the first NBA player in NBA history to come back from cartilage transplant to his knee. That has never happened before. He is looking to become the first player ever to come back not as full strength possible and play in the NBA. He missed all of this season, and it's looking, since it's a 14-month recovery, he'll miss all of next season. 2 years of his prime. He'll be 20. His last game, he was 24. He'll be 27 by the time he plays, roughly 27, 26, by the time he plays another game in the NBA. It's sad, but there's optimistic sides to this where this should help him and not have any lingering knee problems, and this transplant should be able to give him a long, rejuvenated career. Hopefully, if he becomes the first player to return from this type of surgery. Jamie, what are your thoughts on this for Lonzo Ball? And also, if you're the Bulls, I think it's time this offseason to blow it up. Get rid of Zach LaVine, Vucevic, because your point guard of the future supposedly is out for basically another year more. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, it just really sucks because Lonzo Ball was really starting to rejuvenate his career. He's off to a very poor start in Los Angeles. It just doesn't go right with him and LeBron and all them. He goes to New Orleans, and it's cool with him and Zion, but nothing really special comes out of it. He goes to Chicago, and he looks like a top 15 point guard in the NBA. He has completely revamped his jump shot. He's still the same fantastic playmaker that he always was.
Right.
And then, boom, he gets hit with a knee injury, out for the season, and now he's going to be out for way longer than really anybody anticipated. So this is just absolutely tragic, just in NBA purposes, not just Bulls fans. This is something you never want to see. And I really hope Lonzo could be the first player to come back from this injury because he's a very well-liked player within a lot of fan bases. I mean, that's Troy Dan's guy. So we just hate to see it, and I really hope Lonzo can come back from this.
Four-time champ and 2014-15 Finals MVP Andre Iguodala out at least 4 weeks due to requiring surgery on his injured left wrist. This is I wouldn't really say it's a huge hit for the Warriors anymore. A few years ago, even last season, he had kind of had a big impact in the Warriors championship run. But this year, Iguodala has been kind of just not really out there. He doesn't play as much. His impact is not the same. I mean, he's old. He's probably 37, 38 at this point in his career. So his impact's not going to be the same. But his leadership ability, kind of like Udonis Haslem, will still be there. His presence will still be felt on the bench, but he'll be out for at least 4 weeks. That puts him into the second round, if they even make the second round. So that's a question mark there. And this is believed to be his last season in the NBA. So could he never play an NBA game again? Maybe, depending on how far the Warriors make it into the playoffs. Are the Timberwolves back to full strength? Let's talk about it. Karl-Anthony Towns is returning tonight after missing 51 games. I didn't really realize it was that much. He's been out since November 28th with a grade 3 calf strain that really affects your Achilles. You do not want to rush that back. Like a DeMarcus Cousins, he ended up rupturing his Achilles, so you want to be very certain about that. It's been 51 games. Like I said, November 28th, so right after Thanksgiving. He's been out a very long time. Hopefully that is healed enough where it doesn't put any stress on his Achilles, and hopefully that doesn't rupture, and then there's a bigger problem at hand. Also, Anthony Edwards is looking to make his return very soon. I don't think it's tonight. There was speculation on that, but definitely Karl-Anthony Towns is making his return against the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Whoo! What do you guys think about this? How's this help? Obviously, this helps them immensely. They got Mike Conley at the trade deadline after getting rid of D'Lo. I think he's a better fit for this team. How does this all work out for the Timberwolves?
I think I like Jaden McDaniels' defense. I think they were a better defense, but I mean, obviously, you're adding a top 10 center in the league. So I mean, power forward, whatever. I think it's going to add a lot. But I mean, you're missing your best player. You're missing Ant. So I think they might continue to still lose some games until he comes back.
And who knows how Cat's going to be? I mean, hopefully he comes back and he's the same Cat he was pre-injury. Obviously, he'll get to that point because it's not like he's coming back from a major injury, just something that you have to take very seriously because you don't want it to rupture your Achilles. But he should still come back into form eventually, but maybe it won't happen this season, and their playoff life probably won't be that long, so you might have to wait till next year to see where he's at.
I think what benefits Cat a lot in this situation is it's an ankle injury, but he doesn't play like a traditional center. Yeah, sorry. It's a calf injury. He doesn't play like a traditional center, though. So he's a shooter. At that big man position. So yeah, it's going to affect him getting rebounds and stuff, but he's not like a post guy like DeMarcus Cousins was. So I still think Karl-Anthony Towns will be able to score effectively since he's such a good shooter and, not like a play under the basket type of guy.
Yeah, but you got to worry about planting your foot and all that because, like I said, the Achilles is attached to the calf, and that's where a lot of it starts. Like I go back to the DeMarcus Cousins. He had a calf injury, came back too soon, and then ruptured that Achilles. So you got to monitor that carefully. But he's been out since November 28th, so hopefully at this point he is ready to go. We're ready to get into the main segment. What are we doing today, Nick?
Doing the power rankings of 30 to 16, part 1. So I'll go ahead and get us started. With number 30, I'm going to have to pick. I was deciding between the Pistons and the Rockets, and I'm going to give the 30 spot to the Pistons.
Understandable.
Because, they do have less wins, but I mean, the Rockets also have been getting Jabari Smith back into kind of what he was expected to be.
I've been seeing that, yeah.
So, I mean, that's why I'm giving them a little bit of an edge because, the East is a deeper conference anyways. So I was thinking, the Rockets are in an easier conference to win games or whatever, but I'm going to give it to the Pistons.
I have to agree. I also have the Pistons at my 30 spot. They're currently 16-57. And on top of that, they're 1-9 in their last 10 versus someone like the Rockets. They are 5-5 in their last 10, so we'll talk about them in a little bit. But the Pistons are the worst team in the NBA for our current power rankings. I'd have to put them at 30. I believe they were 30 when we did this back over winter break in December. So I don't think much has changed for them. They're, like I said, 1-9 in their last 10 and on a 4-game losing streak.
Yeah, so we're going to have a unanimous pick here. The worst team in the NBA at this moment is the Detroit Pistons, which sucks to say because they have a lot of young talent. They have Cade Cunningham, but nothing's gone right for them. Cade gets injured like 2 games.
He's out the whole season, basically.
2 games into the year, he gets injured out for the season. And what was supposed to be a very good sophomore campaign. And, Ivy's obviously can't carry the team as a rookie. It's not like he has all-NBA talent around him. So the Pistons, 16-57, they're just off extremely slow. They're looking like they could be the winners of that Wembanyama sweepstakes, but the lottery will tell. The lottery will tell. So as of right now, though, the Pistons are not looking good whatsoever. They're going to be in that 30 spot.
I'm very interested to see what we all have for 29. I think mine might be surprising, but it might not be surprising depending on what you have to say. What do you got to say for 29? I'm very curious about this.
Rockets.
Okay.
Just because of record-wise. I gotta keep them right there. So, yeah.
See,
I feel like my 28 is going to be kind of off the wall. But
see, at 29, this might be off the wall. That's why I was very curious. I got the Trailblazers.
That's crazy.
It's fine with me.
They are the 13th seed. They're the 13th seed.
Right, I am.
They are 4 games out of the play-in, but they're 2. Again, this is power rankings as of right now, so I understand where you're going with the Rockets, but this is why I have the Trailblazers at 29. 31-40. They have one of the better records in the lower 20 of this, and the lower 25 of this. From 25 to 30, they have the best record. I'm trying to look at this real quick. Yeah, they pretty much have the best record. But what makes them so bad right now is they are 2-8 of their last 10 and on a 6-game losing streak. Dame can drop as many 50-point games as he wants.
And lose.
He can score 80 points. He can score 70 points. I still think 100, whatever you want to say, 150, but they're still on a 6-game losing streak, 2-8 of their last 10. These are power rankings as of right now, and right now they suck. I mean, they are not good right now. Like I said, 2-8 in their last 10. So I got to put them at 29. I will say, though, Dame is earning my respect back to being a top point guard in the NBA. Even though he's on a bad team or in a kind of like a mid-team, he is still putting up tremendous numbers that 95% of point guards aren't going to do. So I have to respect him on that. But as a team as a whole, they're one of the worst teams in the league right now.
So that's interesting. We all had a unanimous number 30, but none of us had the same number 29 because at 29 I have the Charlotte Hornets. Who as of late have been pretty solid, I will say that. But they've been very bad all season. They have 50 losses on the year. And Mark Williams, he's looking pretty good. But LaMelo Ball's only played half of their games, 37 out of the 73, I believe, at this moment. But their three-point percentage has dropped significantly since last year. They were ranked 6th in the league in three-point percentage last year. They've fallen all the way down to 30th this year, the worst shooting team in the league. Another team that I think would fit Victor Wembanyama very well. I mean, imagine LaMelo and Wemby.
Or B. Mills.
Or B. Mills, yeah, that'd be fire. But as of right now, the Hornets do not look good. Michael Jordan might be selling off the team, his stake in the team, might I say. Yeah. So there's a bright future, I believe, in Charlotte. But that's not to say that they're not good. Or they're not. They're just bad. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah. They're bad.
Moving on to my number 28.
Yeah.
I'm going to... Okay. Yeah, I'm going to give it to Portland as well because, the game where the Clippers played the Trailblazers, it's to be said that Russell Westbrook and Paul George ended the Trailblazer Damian Lillard era because they were already moving towards a rebuild.
He ended their series.
Not Russell Westbrook. He hit on Paul George. But, Damian Lillard, he's going to be out of there this summer.
Nah, he's not leaving.
If they want him out of there, he's out of there.
Well, yeah, I think it's if they want him, but he doesn't want to leave.
They want him out of there, though, I think. If
there's time for them to rebuild.
He is the least winning superstar of all time. Superstar is kind of a stretch, but...
Oh, he is. Who's putting up the statistics he does? Maybe two other guys. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not arguing that, but who's putting up the stats he does?
I mean...
Maybe 2 or 3 other guys.
But those players are probably winning.
Grant. Yeah, I'm not arguing that point, but...
See, that's what just takes him down for me because he's just stat padding. Not stat padding.
I don't think he's not trying
he's just
to.
putting up empty stats because that's what he has to do to even keep up in the game.
I think they have a good team around. It's weird.
Exactly.
They have a solid team.
He doesn't play like how a point guard should play. He's just a shot chucker, if I'm being honest with you. He gets 70 points on 60 attempts, 50 attempts. I mean, yeah, you got 70 points, but Donovan Mitchell did it a little bit better.
The same could say about Joel Embiid, but you have to respect his game because he gets to the line.
Joe is different. You can say that about Joel.
But the thing is, I can't discredit that because you're getting the points. You get the points.
And we also win.
Yeah.
Damian Lillard has one Western Conference Finals appearance in his whole entire career.
I remember that.
It just takes all this scoring, it just takes it away from me. And I think that if you put him on, my prediction is Miami next season, then it's just...
Well, you think the deal, obviously this is just off the cuff.
Kyle Lowry, because that'll be... Kyle Lowry...
Got to give a big contract.
Kyle Lowry...
You probably have to give Tyler Hero.
No. I think you'll do...
They're going to want Tyler
Kyle Lowry, Jovic, Yurt-7, and 3 first-round picks.
I don't know if that's enough.
I think it is.
I think you have to give a star for it.
Throw in Duncan Robinson.
You might have to for the contracts.
But that's not. It's not like he's KD or like Kyrie Irving. He's not.
He's good though.
He's a top 5-6 point guard.
I'll say 6, but I just don't.
De'Aaron Fox better.
I agree with that. I just don't think that he's gonna be worth all that. I think that Miami is where he'll be, or the Lakers can do something tremendously stupid.
If they don't get Kyrie.
I mean, that's just stupid. It's plain stupid for a 33-year-old when you have D'Lo who's 26. I mean, I don't know. Lakers are really stupid. They might do that, being that they don't get success either. But Damian Lillard, I think he's out of there. I think that era is over.
Jumping into my 28, I got to go with the Charlotte Hornets. They are 3-7 of their last 10. They are on a 1-game winning streak, but exactly 1-game winning streak. That says a lot for them. If we did this power rankings, I'd say around 2.5 weeks ago, they'd probably be in the lower 20s, around 22, 23, just because they were beating up some good teams. They're on like a 5-6 game winning streak. But nope, it's flipped now. They are 3-7 of their last 10, 23-50 on the season, and the 14th seed in the Eastern Conference. So for that, they're going to be at one of the lower seeds right now. They are the 28th in my power rankings.
All right, my number 28 spot, I have the big old limit in San Antonio with the Spurs. I have some statistics here for you guys. So Spurs are, as of right now, 52 losses, 19 wins. They have the worst net rating in the NBA, the worst defensive rating in the NBA, and the 29th ranked offensive rating in the NBA. That doesn't stack up to winning games. That's pretty bad. But what I found more interesting is their 3 big players, Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. Those are their 3 best players. Those are their returning guys, have played just 439 total minutes together. For those who don't know, that's not much at all. But the Spurs have only scored 108 points per 100 possessions when the trio has been on the game together, and that marks 379th among 426 three-man combinations in the NBA. That is bad. To be your main 3 in San Antonio and rank 397th? I mean, come on. That's got to be better. I get injuries happen, but that just can't be the case. Come on, Greg. You got to do better, Mr. Popovich. I know you don't have much talent, but, I mean, Keldon Johnson...
got much to work with.
Yeah, Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell, that's a good starting point. It just sucks to see such an iconic franchise go so poverty so fast.
I mean, it's not really their fault, per se.
Yeah.
Just the team aged out, and then Kawhi wanted out. So that rhyme didn't mean to, but...
It was just unfortunate, and I have him at number 28 in my rankings.
27.
For 27, I'll say San Antonio. Same kind of thing that you were just saying. I mean, they're just young. I think they'll probably get the 2nd overall pick. I think Scoot is going to go there. I think the Hornets are getting first.
Scoot would be great there.
I just think that's what's going to happen. It's the draft lotto. Most of the time, the worst team doesn't get that pick, the first pick. So.
Yeah. At my number 27, it may be kind of a surprise because they are currently the 12th seed, so they're not one of the worst seeds. But I got to go with the Wizards. They're 2-8 in their last 10. So if you can see a trend with where I'm putting my power rankings, it's what you've been doing in the last 10 games roughly, because it is what power rankings right now. They're 2-8 in their last 10. They are on a 3-game losing streak. They're not playing very well at all. And this is a team that probably should be the 10th seed right now. 10th, they should be a play-in team, I'll put it that way. Bradley Beal, Kristaps Porzingis, Kyle Kuzma, with solid, not great, but playable depth. They should be a play-in team. Maybe not the 7th or 8th seed, but at least the 9th or 10th seed. And they're just not. They've kind of tanked. They're 2-8 in their last 10. For that reason, I got to put them at 27.
Okay, at my number 27 spot, this is where I'm going to put the Houston Rockets. The second worst record in the NBA. They're such a young team, and there's a lot to build off of going into the next year, but it just hasn't worked this year. They are one of the worst defenses I think I've ever seen in my entire life. It's just a lot of not trying, a lot of iso ball, which is what Minnesota kind of experienced in the beginning of the year, and Houston just hasn't really been able to get a fix over it. Jalen Green, he shot chucks a lot.
He does. I was watching a YouTube video. Sorry to interrupt. He's one of the most inefficient basketball players in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, his pure shooting percentage is atrocious.
Yeah, and I thought he was going to be a top 5 shooting guard, and he wasn't.
He shows the potential because all the intangibles are there, but he doesn't have. He just is the most inefficient. He was ranked top 5 most inefficient players in the NBA.
Yeah. Then you have KPJ. He's been solid. Alperen Sengun probably has been your best player this year, but it's only resulted in 18 wins. So they've really got to get better at team chemistry and overall defense. But as of right now, that ranks them at 27.
Yeah. For 26, I got Orlando. I think they have a very bright future. With all that being said, though, they're still not good. They do beat every single solitary good team in the NBA. They beat the Clippers, Sixers, Celtics. I don't know why I was about to say the Lakers. And just a numerous amount of teams. That's what they do. They beat good teams. So, yeah.
My 26, that's where I throw the Rockets in there. They're 5-5 in their last 10. So almost, what is that? Like a third of their wins have come in the last 10 games because they're 18-54. So I'm no math major. I don't plan on being a math major. But off the top of my head, that's roughly a third of their wins are in the last 10 games of this season so far, which is pretty hysterical to me. But they are 18-54. They are on a 2-game losing streak. I was going to bump them up a little bit, but then I saw the Magic won last night, so I had to switch some things around. So I have the Rockets at 26, 15 seed, second worst record in the NBA. Like I said, they're 5-5 in their last 10, so that's why they're not up near 28, 29, and 30. So I got them at 26.
Okay. So now at 26 is where I'm going to have the Portland Trailblazers. I have them higher than the rest because their offensive rating is spectacular. They rank 8th in the NBA.
Doesn't mean wins.
It doesn't mean wins, but they still have 31, which is more than the Houston Rockets do when you had them above. So that's a little crazy to me.
Yeah, but it's power rankings right now. They're not really powerful.
I think Portland still is better than Houston in really a lot of different standpoints because
I agree, but they're 2-8 in their last.
You've got a lot of good pieces to build around for the season. You got Cam Reddish,
6-game losing streak.
Cam Reddish, I don't care because they could turn that all around in an instant.
They could,
Damian
but as of right
now, I still think they're better than the Houston Rockets. I don't care what way you put it.
7-game series, sure, but as of right now,
no, I'm saying right now they're still better than Houston.
Yeah, obviously because the talent, but they're just not playing well.
I mean, the Hornets were also like really good a couple weeks ago and they fell off. So I think the opposite can happen for Portland. They're ranked 8th in the NBA in offensive rating, and Damian Lillard has been an absolute monster. He ranks 2nd in the NBA in scoring, averaging 32 points a game. So he's been great. Bubble MVP. It's really all he's ever done in his career. But I still think it's good enough to rank him at 26.
25. Moving on to 25. I did have Indiana down here, but I'm gonna switch them with the Wizards because Indiana, they could make the play-in, and they just got to win like 3 straight. But I don't know. I could see it happening, but who's to say if it will? I do like Tyrese Halliburton. He was an all-star, but besides that, it's just a lot of young guys that are inexperienced and, just still trying to find their way in the NBA. They kind of have a tight roster of young guys. So
at 25, I got the Spurs, which is a little high, sure, but they're 4-6 in their last 10. They've just lost 1 game. That's one of the better quote-unquote losing streaks out of these bottom teams. So they're not the worst team out of these. They're not the best, but they're not the worst. I got to put them at 25. The other two really, they really talked about the Spurs and what their problems are. They don't have a star. They have a lot of young pieces. Give them a few years, they might be something, but Greg Popovich doesn't have a lot to work with right now. I could drop them a little bit, but I think they're just doing a little bit better currently than some of the other teams. And, they're 19-53. Nothing to really marvel at, but that's where I got them.
Next up, I have the Orlando Magic, a very young team that I like a lot. Paulo Banchero, the obvious Rookie of the Year, and a lot of young studs, especially like Franz Wagner, who have led that team to get some wins. So I do think I like them more than the Trailblazers, despite having only 2 less losses. They've still been hotter, and Banchero has been spectacular. He was very close to a triple-double last night. He had 18, 9, and 8. Fell just short, but I think it's a very bright future out there in Orlando, and they've been pretty solid. So I got to give it to them. They were great at beating good teams.
They are. They beat the Celtics twice.
They really beat everybody.
The Sixers. I think they beat all the good teams.
Yeah.
Their losses are against bad teams.
Yeah.
24.
Once again, I'm moving my list. I guess the Wizards. I mean, I want to put the Pelicans here. Or not the Wizards.
Pacers?
No, I already said Pacers. Yeah, all right. I'm going to keep the Wizards, yeah. You have all that star talent. You have all that talent, and it just hasn't really became anything. Since Westbrook left, they haven't been able to get close to the play-in. They always have really good starts to the year, and then they end up falling off. But I don't know. I think the Bradley Beal era is over. But, I mean, he did just sign him to that huge deal. I don't know who wants him for that much money. I mean, worst-case scenario, crazier things have happened. Sixers trade, 3-way trade if Harden wants out. There's reports he wants to go to Houston. Say they get Brandon Miller, Victor Wembanyama or something, and you 3-way trade Beal to the Sixers, Harden to the Rockets, and then Jabari Smith to the Wizards or something.
Interesting.
Something crazier things have happened in the NBA. I mean, you never know.
My 24, I got to go with the Orlando Magic. I believe Jamie had him at 25, and you had him back in your list a little bit. So I got him the highest because they beat good teams, and they're 4-6 in their last 10, which is one of the better ones out of these bad teams. And they're 30-43, which is one of the second best records so far that I've talked about. The Wizards are a little better at 32-40, but like I said, they're 2-8 in their last 10. So the Magic are currently better, not record-wise, but as of right now, in a power ranking standpoint, they're a little bit better, 4-6 in their last 10. They are on a 1-game winning streak. Woohoo! I bet Orlando's happy about that one, but they have a good, bright future. Not too much to marvel at again. A little bit more debate as we get into some better teams here, but I got them at 24.
All right, next up at 24, I have the Washington Wizards.
That's high.
I know, but they are still 32-39. They have a good record. Yes, they have lost a lot of games recently, but I mean they're still 32-39, which is a better record than a bunch of the other teams here. So
32-40.
32-40. Sorry,
they lost last night.
Okay, well then my thing isn't updated, but yeah, they're just losing too many games. They have the same record as the Pacers, I believe. So I was debating whether to put them higher, but I'm obviously going to go with the Pacers higher. I'll talk about them next up. But the Wizards having that big three of Porzingis, Beal, Kuzma just hasn't really worked out exactly how we thought it would. They could use some more pieces in the future, but it's been a little disappointing in Washington for the last 10 years now. So hopefully they can pick it up at some point because we have been waiting way too long.
Yeah. Moving on to, what is this, 21?
No, 23.
Oh. Okay, 23. I have New Orleans Pelicans.
Interesting.
Zion is supposed to come back, but
it doesn't matter.
That's what I'm saying. The season's over for them, I think. Another year in the play.
They're not even going to make the play. They might not make the play-in.
And there's nothing wrong with that because, you have the Lakers pick, you have your pick. So, I mean, they could get 2 high lottery picks. So
they were the number 1 seed for about, almost a month. And then Zion got hurt. Brandon Ingram got hurt. Obviously, for not as an extensive period of time as Zion. But they have fallen completely off. Probably one of the biggest disappointments this season, I would say, at the Pelicans.
Yeah.
But at my 23, that's where I have the Pacers. They're 5-5 of their last 10. They're currently on a 2-game losing streak, but they are 32-40. And like I said, they're 50% in their last 10 games, which is pretty good for a subpar team. The 11th seed in the Eastern Conference, they're poking at the 10th seed. They're only two 2.5 games back from the 10 seed, and I think the Bulls could drop some. They have been playing pretty well of late because Zach LaVine has been a menace. He's been a top 4 shooting guard in the past month. Not overall, but this past month he was in a top 4 shooting guard, and he's not 4. He's probably closer to 3. He's been killing it post All-Star break, averaging around 30 points per game for them. With that said, we're talking about the Pacers. I got them at 23.
All right, so I know I just said I was going to go with the Pacers next, but I'm making an audible because I'm going with the Pelicans next. They're at 34 wins right now, but the only reason I'm not putting them over the Pacers is because they just lost to the Rockets. You can't lose to the Rockets, man. That's not how it works. One of the worst records in the NBA, and they're just playing atrocious. I think that Zion injury really just went everything. Yeah. That completely was the turning point for the Pelicans. They were the 1 seed in the West at one point, and they fell hard. I really wish we could have seen this team at full potential throughout the entire year. They have been dealing with injuries nonstop, whether it be Zion or Brandon Ingram. It's just never, come to fruition for New Orleans. So hopefully next year they can come back stronger, but it's been extremely disappointing.
It all depends on Zion's health. Like I've said on previous podcasts, and I'll say it again, Zion's the biggest question mark in the NBA.
Yep.
One of the biggest question marks.
Yeah. On a 22. For this one, I'm going to have to give it to the Chicago Bulls. They've been winning games. But, I just think there's a lot of teams in the West that are better than them. So, I'm going to say Chicago here. They're probably going to be rebuilding in the summer. They're going to, fall back a lot. I think that they're going to struggle to get those, big contracts out of there. And Vucevic, he's on a player deal. So if he declines that, then he can be out of there. But I think they're going to struggle to get DeRozan out of there.
I don't even have the Bulls today.
Wow.
I don't. Interesting, right?
Oh, you don't have them on here?
Not for today. They're going to be on Saturday, Monday's podcast.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't. They're all right. They're going to be a playing team for sure, unless they lose 3 games. But I just don't think that they can compete with any of those teams in the West that are the same seed as them. So
jumping into my 21, that's where I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. I did have them actually. Oh, 22, right? We're on 22.
Yeah.
My bad. 22. Right when I said it, I was like, I didn't say 22. Pause. 22. The Pelicans. They're the 12th seed, 35-37. They are on a 2-game winning streak. That's nice. That's cool. They're 5-5 in their last 10, but they don't have Zion Williamson. This whole year has honestly been a disaster for the Pelicans. Coming into the season, I think most of us, not all of us, but we had the Pelicans 1 or the 2 seed in the Western Conference by the end of the season. We should honestly look back at that at one of our later podcasts before the year's over. But anyways, they are now the 12th seed in the Western Conference, and it's really not completely their fault. Zion Williamson has been out for most of the season. Brandon Ingram has been out for a lot of periods of the season. Everyone's been out a little bit. Herb Jones, CJ McCollum, you name them, they've been out for the Pelicans. They have we don't know the exact stat, but if I were to look at the amount of games they played as a full team together, maybe it's 10 or 15. Maybe, if they're lucky. Their whole team has been injured on and off. That is their biggest problem. When healthy, it was proven they were the best team in the Western Conference, but they're not healthy. And like I said, Zion Williamson is that big question mark. He's out. He should come back soon, but is there even a reason? Not really. With that said, they got them at 22. And I guess who I have for 21, but I'll talk about that later.
Okay, so now is where I rank the Indiana Pacers. I just think they have the best playmaker in basketball in Tyrese Halliburton, and I think they have a great future. They have a fantastic center in Miles Turner. They got Buddy Hield. Give it or take it what you think about him. I don't, rank him very highly. But the reason I didn't rank them under the 2 teams I stated previously is because they actually lost to the Pistons earlier this week. But 3 days later, they come back and beat Milwaukee. So they lost to the worst team in the NBA, and they beat the best team in the NBA. And I think beating the best team in the NBA is a better feat than losing to the worst. So I had to give them that high ranking for that reason. Big shouts out to Tyrese Halliburton, TJ McConnell, George Hill. Those guys were the big factors in beating Milwaukee. And so I got to give them their spotlight. They've been doing it. And I think they have a bright future ahead, especially with Tyrese. That's a future All-NBA point guard.
Mm-hmm.
Might be this year.
Moving on, I have Utah Jazz.
Hey, wow, that's pretty low.
They're they're pretty good. They're playing team.
They just beat the Celtics and the Kings.
They fell off, though.
I mean, what do you mean they fell off? They just beat the Celtics in the
I'm saying they were like the one seed in the West at one point.
Yeah, I know, from the beginning of the season.
There's a lot of teams way better than them.
No, I agree, but I have them later today.
I mean, they're all right. They are what they are. I don't know the direction of this team whatsoever.
Danny Ainge is running it, so they're competing.
I mean, it's just weird. We'll see what they do with this in the off season. They do have their pick. They have multiple other picks. They have the Timberwolves picks. I think they have the Grizzlies picks. I don't know what you do, honestly, but, you have something to build around, so that's a good thing.
Larry Markkinen is an all-star, too.
Yeah.
So you got an all-star player to build around. And I like Colin Sexton, but they just don't utilize him. I honestly think you could get some value for him and trade him somewhere else where he would play. Because he's like, is he still their sixth man?
Yeah.
Even trading out, yeah. 21, I got that this will have the Timberwolves. I just talked about it, but I'll talk about it again now that we're actually on them. But they're the 9th seed in the Western Conference, 36-37. They are currently on a one-game winning streak. Nice, 5-5 in their last 10. Karl Anthony Towns comes back tonight. So if we waited another week on these power rankings, I might have them up a little bit more in somewhere in later teens, depending on how much Cat helps this team and if they go on a bit of a winning streak. But right now, Cat's not back. Anthony Edwards has been out for a little bit, so I got to put him at 21 before those guys come back and see what happens with them. I'm assuming when they come back, both of them, Cat being tonight and in a few days, that they'll probably bump up my power ranking a little bit. But right now, they're just kind of not where they should be, so I got to put them at 21.
I also have the Minnesota Timberwolves at my number 21 spot. Just because they lose a lot of big games. They just got their first win in an Eastern Conference arena in 4 months. That's crazy to me. First win in 4 months in an Eastern Conference arena, and that was a win against the Atlanta Hawks. They've also lost 4 games in which they led by double digits in the fourth quarter. So they can't hold on to leads, and they're also 1-5 in their last 8 games against Eastern Conference opponents. So they just lose way too many big games. They're in the negatives record-wise, and for having a good amount of talent on that team, they just don't put it together. Anthony Edwards is in my eyes, future MVP candidate. Rudy Gobert is one of the best defensive big men that we've seen in the last 10 years. Karl Anthony Towns, albeit has been hurt for a good majority of the year, is probably the best shooting center of all time, and they just can't put it together. Like Kyle Anderson's been one of their best players this year. You can't be having that if you're Minnesota. So hopefully they could put it together at some point, but this year just has not been their year.
Yeah, moving on to 20. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna give it to Toronto. They're probably, in my opinion, they're probably the best team out of these remaining teams. Well, no, not on my list. No, they're not. They're really good though. You got Pascal. You got about a quarter of that championship squad remaining. So, they have a lot of playoff experience. I think that they're going to be one of the teams in the play-in to worry about. I worry more about them than I do the Miami Heat. I think that they'll win that game against the Bulls, most likely, then probably play Atlanta. And I think they could get past Atlanta and then play the Bucks and then get swept. But, they're definitely one of the best teams in the NBA still, regardless.
At my number 20, that's where the Golden State Warriors fall. They're the 6th seed in the Western Conference. They are probably one of the higher seeds that are this low on my list. 37-36 on the season, but this is where the problem lies. They're 8-29 on the road. That is one of the, to put it in perspective, the Rockets are 6-28 in the road. The Spurs are 6-28 in the road. The Warriors have 2 more wins than both those teams on the road. They cannot win on the road. They leave Oracle Arena and they fall apart. What is their problem? Because at home they're 29-7. And I believe also they do not play at Oracle Arena anymore. That's their old stadium. Chase Center, thank you, yeah. Right when I said that, I was like, that doesn't sound right anymore. That was when they were in Oakland, now they're in San Francisco. But with that said, they have a road problem. They're 4-6 in their last 10. So previous teams I was talking about, like the Timberwolves, Pelicans, Pacers, possibly, they were all 5-5 in their last 10. The Warriors, I still had to put them above them because they have a better record, but they just can't win on the road. And they also are 4-6 in their last 10. But I had to give them a little bit more respect just because they have a better record. They're the 6th seed, so I couldn't throw them back the 22-23 range. But they have a problem. Coming into playoff time, if they somehow finagle home court, they're scary. But if not, they're not going to make it past the first round because they can't win on the road. And if you can't win on the road, how are you supposed to win a championship? So that's what I got to say about the Warriors.
All right, so next up, I have the Chirac Bulls, who, since the All-Star break, actually have the second best win percentage in the NBA.
That's why I don't got them today.
Only behind Sacramento, who are 11-3 since the break. The Bulls have been good, but they still only have 33 wins on the season. So hopefully they can get that up, but they have the talent there. Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan have been a fantastic duo since they've joined forces. Nikola Vucevic, who I think is overrated, is still serviceable even as an older center in the NBA. So I do think all the potential is there to make a possible play and run and maybe even make the playoffs if you want to, if they keep that stretch going. So although I do believe that they're a great team, I do have them ranked, what is this, 20? Or is
20.
Yeah, this is 20. Just because they only have 33 wins on the season and they have a lot of clawing back to do.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to the teams. It's easily where the Lakers, the most fraudulent team in the NBA, the worst fan base in the NBA. The Los Angeles Lakers fall. It's one thing or another. We got to keep making excuses for them. LeBron's injured, AD's injured. The team hasn't been acclimated. The team's acclimated. They have good depth. They should be winning games. So I don't. There's
have been
1,000 excuses you can make, but they're still losing. They've
been winning.
Team. I mean, they're winning, but they're
Mickey
not
Mouse
winning.
wins.
Exactly.
What are you talking? They're 6-4 in their last 10 without LeBron.
Mickey,
stop. Stop.
They still have Anthony Davis and D'Angelo Russell. They should be going 8-2 if Westbrook was such a bad, person on the team.
Why are you hating? They're 6-4 in their last 10. What were they with? 4-6 with Westbrook?
I mean,
just they'll be winning games.
Exactly.
And they had LeBron in those games.
No, but I don't know how you can say Mickey. That's just
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
I'm not taking anything away from LeBron, but
stupid.
They're worse than they were. I mean,
no, they're not. They're better.
They're worse than they were a week ago. They were in the play-in.
That's because there's like a 1 game difference between.
Well, why didn't they keep it?
7.
Why didn't they keep it? They didn't because they're trash. Mickey Mouse players.
They're 6-4 in their last 10. The Jazz are 5-5 in their last 10. So they're actually doing better than the Jazz right now.
Jimmy Butler better.
They should be able. If they're doing better, then we'll see what they do. But they're probably missing.
I'm not saying they're like great by any means, but you're saying they're like the 15th seed.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the 19th best team in the NBA. That's kind of a stretch. I mean, I got
them a little higher.
I almost thought about putting them lower.
I could have put the Raptors, Bulls ahead of them, but I didn't. And the Raptors and Bulls would kill them in a 7-game series.
I'd say maybe the Raptors, but not the Bulls.
I think
with how the Bulls are playing recently, I think they could.
I mean,
yeah, but
the Pelicans right now, I think, could beat the Lakers. The Jazz, I think, could. I mean, the Lakers are
Detroit.
No. The Lakers are not ready for the playoffs. They missed it last year. They can make it all they want, go to the play-in, win. I don't see them doing nothing. And if they do, whatever,
And they said they want to face the Kings if they make. They said.
Oh yeah.
They said when we make the playoffs, we want the Kings. Who said anything about you making the playoffs? And if you make the playoffs, you are not beating the Kings in 7.
Will sweep them. So
I honestly think so too.
They'll sweep them. I mean.
Jumping into mine 19, that's where the Atlanta Hawks fall, the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference as of today. They're 36-36, so they're the only 500 team in the NBA. Maybe they might be the only 500 team. The Mavericks and the Thunder are also 500, but there's only a few 500 teams, and the Hawks are one of them. They are 5-5 of their last 10. They're on a 1-game winning streak. Cool, whatever. I mean, we're kind of getting into the realm of middle teams from that 19, 15, 14 spot. Obviously, 15 at 14 will be on the next podcast, but we're getting into those mid-teams, and this is where the Hawks fall. I did want to put them a little higher. I just think the teams above them, record-wise or not, are just better right now, so that's why I got to put them at 19.
All right, at my 19, I have the Los Angeles Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, the general manager, LaFraud.
That's getting old, that Mickey Mouse stuff.
Fake rings, Jimmy Butler
I
better.
agree with everything you're saying except for the LeBron stuff because that ring is very warranted.
Paul George better.
The hardest ring ever won in NBA history, but that's a different Lakers team than,
But right now, I get it. They're 6-4 is what you said?
In the last 10, yeah.
Yeah, 6-4 in the last 10. But, I mean, they should be winning more games. If they think they're that playoff team that they all claim to be, then why aren't they? Like, they were in the plan at one point.
They start off the year terribly?
No, they shouldn't have.
They shouldn't have, but they did. So they can't just win 20 games when they've only played 10.
I don't think they should be talking all the talk they're talking.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make sense to be talking.
There's still a lot more chemistry to be made between all of those players. We still haven't seen how they do with LeBron coming back. So
I mean, they're going to do good with LeBron. You can't. You add LeBron.
That's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed.
But you're acting like it's going to be like a big question mark if they'll be good with. When LeBron comes back, they'll be fine.
I think it is a question mark because we haven't seen how he plays with guys like D'Angelo Russell.
They don't even know if he'll be back. by the end of the season.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, I'm not arguing they're going to be like great, but the only thing I'm arguing is you guys think they're like the worst thing ever. I just don't agree with that.
I'm not saying they're the worst thing ever because I still have them ranked number 19. So
that's what I'm saying.
They're still better than 10 teams. So I just think that they're going to crumble. I don't even think they make the playoffs. And I think if they do make the play-in, I think if they do make the play-in, they lose.
They're one game out.
I think they lose to a team like Golden State or OKC.
The thing is, though, OKC, sorry to interrupt, but literally the Clippers could. They're the 5th seed right now. They could not make the playoffs.
They're not falling out.
I'm just saying that's how close it is. To say the Lakers, but to say it's between the Lakers and Jazz is just not true because anyone from the Suns, from the Suns down to the Pelicans could switch in 3 days. So anywhere from the 4 to the 13 seed could just flip. 12 seed, could just flip to next week.
But it hasn't. It's been that way in the West for like the entire season. And the top 6 teams have stayed fairly similar.
That's not true. The Warriors were a 13 seed like a month ago.
And the Lakers have been in like practically the same spot like the entire season. They haven't moved up despite the West.
They've been the 11th seed
they've
December.
They've been in this tight Western Conference, separated by like 3 games the entire year, and they haven't moved up. They've actually moved down.
Out of the Mavericks, Timberwolves, Jazz, and Pelicans,
and the Lakers don't
Warriors,
stack up to those teams.
All the teams on the bubble, so to speak, the Lakers actually have the best record. So we'll see what happens if they continue to win. They will bump into the play-in 100% because they got the best record in the past 10 games. Not record, obviously, or they would be in the play-in, but the last 10-game record, they are behind the Thunder, who are 8-2. They are killing it. We'll talk about them.
OKC is definitely. I do think they beat the Lakers.
I'm not talking about them today. They're in the next one.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about them today either. They've been good. But yeah, that's it for the Lakers. We'll see what they can do for the rest of the year. Go Kings.
Number 18.
For number 18, I'll put. Let me think about what I want to do here. Timberwolves. Yeah, I'll give it to the Timberwolves here. They got some injuries coming back, and I think that they've got some team chemistry to build. But I think this is a play-in team. I think this is I like the way the standings look. I think this is how it's staying. I think that the Timberwolves are going to continue to develop into what they're going to be, and next year they're going to be dangerous. I think
that's what we said last year, though, too.
I don't know. I mean, that's having D'Angelo Russell as your point guard, though, versus Mike Conley, who's a more fundamental point guard playmaker.
At number 18, that's where the Toronto Raptors fall for me. They are 35-37, the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference. I almost said Western. Obviously, they're not in the Western Conference. They're 5-5 of their last 10. Again, we're heading into the middle of the road teams. I think they are out of the Eastern Conference teams that are in the play-in. Heat, Hawks, Raptors, Bulls. They are the team that could knock off that 1-seeded Bucks or the Celtics or the Sixers, any of those teams that get it. They could be the team to do it because they're great defense that hasn't been so great as usual this season, but I know they can turn it on whenever they want to because they have the players who are capable of playing great defense. OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, the list goes on. Fred VanVleet, he's a pretty good perimeter defender for his position. So they have the potential to do that. Will they? I don't know. Probably not because they are the 9th seed, but they can. So that's why I got them at 18.
All right, next up I have the Atlanta Hawks. Right now they're sitting at 35 wins, but they have a very tough schedule coming up. They have back-to-back. They have 2 back-to-backs this week. So, I mean, at one point you have they got to face Minnesota on the road back-to-back, and then Memphis at home back-to-back. And they're 2-5 in rest disadvantage games this year. So I do think they're going to have a very tough time trying to make that Eastern Conference play-in. But again, they're the Atlanta Hawks. We've seen what they could do. They made it deep in the playoffs last year. Trae Young runs New York, and I think they have the talent to really, push for that playoff spot. Trae Young, he's dominant. DeJounte Murray is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. And if John Collins wants to, switch up whatever funk he's been in, I do think they could be dangerous. But as of right now, I have them at that 18 spot.
18, yep.
17.
I'll put Atlanta here. What?
No.
I'll put Atlanta here. With Quinn Snyder, they look a lot better, I guess. I like Nate McMillan a lot, but I don't know if, he's a guy that's going to get your locker room, heated and all that, and, bring a group of guys together to, win serious games. And I think that he was, kind of just upset that they weren't, a top 5 team in the NBA like they should have been. But, he's going to move on to whatever team he moves on to next if he gets a job. But Quinn Snyder, he's still a very great, one of the great better coaches of the 2010s, I think. So, this team is a team to definitely look out for in the playoffs. And I think that, going deeper into the play-in, they could probably steal a 7 or 8 spot in the play-in. So our playoffs, we'll see.
At number 17, I got the Los Angeles Lakers. They're 6-4 of their last 10. Like we were talking about a few minutes ago, they have one of the better records for a low-end team trying to make a play-in. 6-4, doing a lot better post-All-Star break than pre-All-Star break. Some key wins. Lately, they beat the Mavericks. They beat the Grizzlies. They beat the Thunder, who are doing really well right now. They beat the Timberwolves, Warriors, Grizzlies again, the Raptors. They beat the Pelicans. They beat the Rockets. They beat the Magic. They've beaten up on some mid teams, some bad teams, and some good teams. They've been doing it all lately. 6-4 their last 10, like I said. You got to give them their respect. And LeBron's been out for all of those wins. So when he comes back, they should be able to jump into that 10th, 9th seed. Like we've said every time, the West is so tight. It's so from 4 to 11, even 12, could switch in a week. That's how close it is. We've never seen this before. So keep your eyes out. The Lakers are going to make a push. I think they'll jump into the play-in too, because when you have LeBron, you're automatically better than the Jazz, Timberwolves, Mavericks, and Thunder.
All right, next up, I have the Utah Jazz, who have been really good over the last few days. They've been without Jordan Clarkson, and they've been without Colin Sexton, and they've still managed to beat Sacramento and Boston, two very hard teams to beat in the NBA, two of, in my eyes, the top 5 teams in the NBA. And they went out there and did it. So I got to give a lot of props to Utah for missing 2 of their best players and still going out there and beating fantastic teams. Still, they don't have the best record in the NBA, like by any means. However, this team has a lot of grit and a very bright future. They have the best interior defensive rookie in the NBA in Walker Kessler. He's just a square in the paint, so there's no getting past him. So they do have the worst ranked bench in the NBA, which is pretty surprising considering you have the 6th man of the year.
Who's that?
Clarkson.
He starts.
No, I'm just saying the former 6th man of the year. But yeah, Utah, they've been fantastic. They know how to beat good teams, and they were the 1 seed in the West at one point. And I think they could, maybe next year, try and work some things around. They can get back to that point.
Moving on to the last spot. I don't want to say it honestly because I don't want to get yelled at, but
Yeah.
All right, it's just my opinion. I'm just taking everything into account.
No way.
What?
You're not about to say the Celtics.
Who?
Celtics.
No.
Oh, that's crazy.
Oh, I was gonna say.
OKC. Wow.
Okay, I thought you're gonna be like, oh, you're gonna hate this. I thought you were gonna say the Celtics.
And let me just give my reasoning before any,
Go ahead.
y'all say anything. Miami, they're a little bit better. The teams that I was considering is Miami and Dallas and OKC. Dallas has the same record as OKC, and they're 4-6. Yes, they can't get any team chemistry, but they're gonna figure it out. They could steal that 6th spot. I think. Yeah. I think they could steal the 5 spot. I think the Clippers could 5. I think the Clippers will fall to 6.
So with Kyrie and Luka,
I think that's what's gonna happen. But I just gotta. For OKC, they're a really good team. For me, honestly, it's more like a 15 ABC type of situation here with Miami, Dallas, and OKC. But and the reason I don't have the Warriors here is because yes, they have a terrible record away, but you're not winning if you go to the Chase Center. You're not winning, and the second it gets into the playoffs, we're talking about the second greatest dynasty of all time. So I am very fearful of the Warriors, and then let me get on to my argument of why I think OKC is, this spot for me is because they're young. Young teams make mistakes, and I think if they get into the situation of the play-in, I think they'll beat Utah in that situation. Oh, well, if they lose, then they would play either Utah or Minnesota. And I think if they play Minnesota, if everybody's fully healthy, Minnesota wins that series. I think if they play Utah, that's probably like a blowout by OKC. But, Dallas and OKC or Dallas Warriors, Dallas Clippers, whatever. Timberwolves, Clippers, Timberwolves, Thunder. My bad. I mean to say Thunder. Play either of these teams. I don't know.
You just don't see it happening?
They're a playing team for sure. Everybody from the 10 to 7, I need them to keep on winning games.
So the Lakers don't make it.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
At my 16th spot, the last one for today, we'll see you on Monday with 15-1. I got to go with the Utah Jazz. They just beat up on the Celtics. Joe Mazzulla, you got to make better decision-making in the clutch. Different topic for a different day. Beat up on the Kings. Jamie over there. And in our marquee matchups of the week, I actually picked the Kings. I didn't see it happening.
I think everybody with a brain would have, but...
But no, they beat up on the Kings as well. They are currently the 10 seed, last spot in the play-in, 35-36. They're 5-5 in their last 10 on a 2-game winning streak, and those 2 games are against really, really darn good teams. So for that reason, I have them as my last spot today at number 16.
All right, my 16th spot, the last spot of the day before we're back. I have the LeBronto Raptors at that 16 spot. They're just such a young team, but they have way too much talent. Pascal Siakam has, always been fantastic. Fred VanVleet, although he is extremely inefficient, knows what to do come playoff time, and he's going to be a beast. Scotty Barnes was your Rookie of the Year last year. Chris Boucher can dunk from the free throw line. He's always on House of Highlights. So they have a lot of pieces, but as of late, they're on their Warriors impression. They've lost their last 4 road games. And, they just got to get better at that. But they've won their last 7 at home. So, in a playoff series, if they have the, more likely than not, they're going to be in a home disadvantage. I don't see them winning a playoff series if they do make it. However, I do see them making a play-in push. And I do see them being one of the better teams out of that Eastern Conference play-in. Just because they have a lot of guys with experience. And I really like the Raptors going into these last few games. So, with all of those great arguings and, rankings put to the side, I want to give a big thank you all to tuning in to WVUA 90.7 FM and the Full Court Press podcast. We'll be back on Monday with part 2 of our current NBA Power Rankings, numbers 15-1. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at FCP_UA and on TikTok at FCP_podcast. This is Jamie, Alex, and Nick signing out.